Ever since COVID-19 began, all of us have heard the names of several new drugs: remdesivir, tocilizumab, dexamethasone, and our very own homegrown atolizumab. Atolizumab is a drug developed by a Bangalore-based company called Biocon. Until now, it was used for the treatment of an autoimmune skin disease called psoriasis. Then, roughly a month ago, the Indian drug regulator approved this drug for COVID-19 as well. The decision triggered quite a bit of controversy because even though Biocon said that they had shown through a randomized controlled trial that atolizumab reduced deaths drastically, other experts said the trial was too poorly designed to show any such thing. Now, even more worrying flaws have emerged in the trial, which I wrote about in this story here. In this video, I'm going to walk you through some of the problems with the atolizumab trial and explain why experts are saying that the trial was badly done. Let's start with what a randomized controlled trial or an RCT is, which Biocon said it conducted to show the drug's efficacy. The two key words here are randomized and controlled. A controlled trial means that the patients who get the drug are compared to patients who don't to see if they do better. You could measure how well patients are doing by comparing the number of deaths or mortality rates between both types of patients. Those who receive the drug are called the drug arm, and those who don't are called the control arm. Usually the controls receive the best treatment available at the time, called the standard of care. A randomized trial means that the decision of which patients receive the treatment and which patients become the control is random. That is, human beings don't get to make this choice. One way in which this can be done is by entering the details of all the trial participants into a computer. Then the computer uses an algorithm to randomly allocate these participants to either the drug arm or the control arm. Why is this randomness important? The reason is that if a doctor could decide who can get the drug and who can be the control, there is a strong possibility that patients in the drug and control arms won't be similar. Maybe the doctor will select sicker patients to get the drug and healthier patients will become controls. They may make this decision unconsciously, but if sicker patients get the drug, then there will be more deaths in the drug arm and the trial won't tell you much about the drug itself, the efficacy of the drug itself. On the other hand, once patients are allocated randomly with no human intervention to both arms, if you see more deaths in the control arm, you can be relatively sure that the drug prevented the deaths in the other arm. In other words, an RCT can show causation. That is, it can help you conclude that the lower deaths in the drug arm were due to the drug. RCTs are considered the highest form of medical evidence, but they're reliable only if they're done properly. This means, among other things, the data from an RCT must be analyzed honestly, and the sample size or the total number of patients recruited should be large enough. With this introduction, let's get into the RCT which Biocon conducted. Now, in a press conference on July 13th, Biocon's chief medical officer said that the company's RCT for atolizumab had a sample size of 30 COVID-19 patients. 20 of them were randomly allocated to receive atolizumab, while 10 were controls. After 30 days, the trial investigators, that is the doctors who conducted the trial, found that there were no deaths in the atolizumab arm, while 3 people died in the control arm. Based on this data, they concluded that atolizumab caused a statistically significant lowering of deaths among patients who got the drug compared to controls. Now, if you don't know what statistical significance means, you can check out the video in the links below or read this excellent article by epidemiologist Jameel Nagaraj Rao. But very quickly, if someone says that the difference in mortality in a drug arm and control arm is statistically significant, it means that the drug's efficacy which you're seeing in the trial is likely to be a real effect, which you will see even outside the trial. It means that the trial's results are representative of the larger population. Now let's talk about the first problem with the claims made by Biocon. It is that we don't know if the company did an RCT in the first place. While Biocon's chief medical officer initially said that the investigators had randomized 30 patients, he later said that out of these 30 patients, the investigators gave atolizumab sequentially to the first 5. This means that the first 5 patients weren't randomized. The R in the RCT is missing. Remember, randomization means that the investigators don't get to decide who gets a drug. Now, if the trial isn't an RCT, it raises questions about the conclusion that itolizumab prevented the deaths. This conclusion, which is a conclusion of causation, can only be drawn from an RCT. Now let's talk about the second problem. This is about whether the difference in deaths in the itolizumab arm and the control arm was statistically significant. As you already know, statistically significant at the 0.05 level, this is a typical level used in several clinical trials, means that there is a less than 5% chance that the clinical trial showed the drug to be effective, even though the drug was not really effective. That's what it means. Now, Biocon said that 30% of participants died in the trial's control arm, while no participants died in the itolizumab arm, and this difference was statistically significant. But we know now that there were more than 0 deaths in the itolizumab arm. In fact, the company later said that 2 patients who received the drug suffered what is called an infusion reaction. As they were being given the drug intravenously, it triggered a side effect in which people can experience symptoms like fever, nausea, diarrhea, itching, etc. Infusion reactions can be pretty dangerous. When this happened, these 2 patients dropped out of the itolizumab arm. One of the patients who dropped out eventually ended up dying 9 days later due to COVID-19 complications, according to a presentation published by Biocon. In such a situation, when a patient has received their first dose, dropped out, and eventually died, the right thing for the investigators to do would have been to count the death while calculating the difference in mortality in both arms. But the itolizumab trial's investigators did not do this. Instead, they replaced the 2 patients who had dropped out with 2 new patients. Several experts told me that this kind of analysis, where you don't count patients who have dropped out, is problematic. Now, if the investigators had counted the patients who had dropped out, what would have happened? They would have seen that 1 out of 20 deaths in the itolizumab arm, not 0 out of 20, and 3 out of 10 deaths in the control arm had occurred. That's 5% deaths versus 30% deaths. And this difference is not statistically significant anymore. This means that the investigators had just calculated the results of their trial a little differently. Their conclusion would have changed. They would have found that itolizumab's impact on mortality was not that obvious after all. These are just 2 of the problems with the itolizumab trial. The third problem is that even if the investigators had randomized all 30 patients instead of not randomizing 5, like I said before, and even if they had counted the 2 patients who dropped out after infusion reactions, a 30-patient trial is just too small to make any robust conclusions. This is why trials for other drugs being used for COVID-19 have been much larger. For instance, a trial based on which the United States Food and Drugs Administration approved the antiviral remdesivir for COVID-19 had over 1,000 patients, while another UK trial which found dexamethasone, which is a steroid, to be effective had over 6,000 patients. For more details on why sample size matters, do read my story. The bottom line is that even though Biocon has described itolizumab as a breakthrough drug, the data they shared doesn't really support this claim. This doesn't mean the Biocon drug is of no use in COVID-19. If the company decides to conduct a larger RCT consisting of many more patients and analyzing the results properly, they may find more persuasive evidence that the drug works. But the 30-patient trial sponsored by the company certainly wasn't persuasive. And this is something even patients should be aware of.